I need you to open this package.
You are live.
Good morning, you all. We appear to be here. Let's look. Right, we're at the end of this. Right. And here. And bear with me so that I've got us up to date in all the different texts. Okay, of the translations you have, translators, we appear to be in 60B in English in the public translation. I'm working from a different translation, but it's pretty close. And here that would be, let me find B. There, okay. There. There. Okay, found all the places. This is what happens when you work from a couple of different texts to try to translate. No one translation is ever perfect. Ask any translator, including the one who did it. So this is because Tibetan and English don't match on a one-to-one basis. Look, the word in Tibetan, sig, that is translated as word actually means phrase. A word in Tibetan is long enough to contain a subject, an object, and a verb as syllables stuck to other syllables, making a complete concept. And we call that a word. That's a phrase in English. So you can't quite go one to one. There's no exact. Everything is context. Because of this, take all translations with a grain of salt. And if you are scholarly, I highly recommend learning to read the original Tibetan, at least, Sanskrit too, if you're up to it, and if you're studying sutra, maybe even Pali. Now, I'm not of a scholarly bent, so I can kind of manage the Tibetan, but those of you who are more scholarly have an opportunity here to go a lot farther than I ever went in that direction. So we are working on the 8 Dohas of the Mahasiddhas of North India, a very old text, which I believe started out in Sanskrit since it came up from India. Would you turn the heater off? It's warm enough now.
All right.
But I only have it in the Tibetan and a couple of English translations. So we will work with that. Always somewhere wondering what they actually said in their own native language. To practice Dharma, you're going to have to accept the power of and rather than either or. You're going to have to accept uncertainty and accept it with good grace. For example, should you be fortunate enough to have a personal teacher, you will never, ever actually know why he did that or she did that, whatever that was. You will have 10,000 guesses, but you'll never really know. When working Guru Yoga with a live person, I have found that to be the key. I have found that with great difficulty to be the key to managing an ongoing relationship with a live person. Avoid trying to interpret them. Occasionally ask questions. Before we start, those of you who are here in a second language, not English, and this is being translated for you into another language, please remember at the end the kindness of your translators, who are all volunteers, and please make a small or large, as you see fit, offering to them. Without them, this would only be going out in English. I also want to invite any of you who are currently occupying the time in your life when you have more money than time. This is when you occasionally pay somebody to come in and help clean your house because you're at the top of your career, you got kids, your parents are getting older and need some help. You're at that point in your life where you're so damn busy earning money that you barely have time to even spend it. And you certainly don't have time to put the attention into your practice it needs. If you are in this time of your life where you pay somebody to mow your lawn instead of doing it yourself because you don't have time for that, but you do have money for that, consider teaming up with one of the yogis in your practice. Consider this so that if you feed them, you share the merits of their practice, the results, the realizations. Milarepa said, the yogi in the mountains In the mountain caves, the farmer who brings him his food. The two of them gain the realizations together because they did the practice together as teamwork. Everything is teamwork. We are all in this together. This teaching itself is teamwork. You and I and the translators are making a team to communicate something. Yes, you're part of it. We all are in this together. This is the key of Bodhicitta. So if you are interested in doing this, email me. I'll set you up. It's about the cost of an extra large pizza a month. $25, euros, Canadian, whatever. Send me an email. We'll talk further. Were there any other announcements I needed to make? Because I often forget completely at the end, which is why I'm trying them in the beginning.
You might mention the upcoming retreats for the Russians and your next travel plans in May and June.
Okay, where am I in May and June? Europe.
May and June, that is when you are in Europe, France, Czechoslovakia, and Vienna.
Okay, so Europeans, if you want to meet me in person, come find me in Europe in May and June. Check the calendar on the website to see exactly when and where, because I never memorize this stuff. I'm more of a, oh, I'm in Vienna, it must be Wednesday, sort of a person. And upcoming online, we've got a couple of retreats coming up. I don't know if they are full or not. Retreats are limited to 50 people at a time-ish. Just so that we actually have time to take people through them. So if you are interested, again, look at what's upcoming on the calendar. I think there's a speech, Rusha, and a couple other things coming up. And if you are interested, go ahead and sign up. I don't know if it's full. Get put on a waiting list if it is, if that works for you. What else, Nyando?
I think those were the two main things.
Okay, I'm trying this in the beginning because I always forget at the end. Unless somebody really reminds me. So, I think we're good to go. Shuku kunduzong pogom poi dorji sempa garab dorji dang shasingi bardu shin labdi de damabzan tata tusum chi Zogchen jupe lamala solwa deb Ergin pema junila solwa deb Dorji chang chitilo narudang Marpa mila gompo tatapa Na pupadang palden drupa suk Kargyu lama namla solo deb Ochen lama namla solo deb Druchen lama namla solo deb Kaginuari lama namla solo deb Shakya lama namla solo deb Nyanduda yundrun lama namla solo deb Palkondu jongdang yerme pa Gungarab dorji jintrag pa Jitidang nisume pa Palamanam chitente chong. Samjana Sangini Dubela Koyena Chukijang Dagbe Chung Rion Madang Matsushang Nebasam Ne Sim Nepasam Gange Dene patokpa krobat sampayani Ke mani maraja osa kungapchang Mimenam ramam matangdunang Nanjing pa kunla chemga ching Ompadang lani Daglanene hengduring Gromanam gesemme madong madang mesem gesem neram duding Jitargon ge perlam me mandang Nang me dom me duk gabi me tar Go tin nam don ha te simbai Ke bundum me tung so ba jing je Ke jing lu di lu He de ba mong ram sing Nang po kim du sang na du so Ka ting lu yang dang la dun sin ne Ka ting la ba na le lu dam ra Ne da ja she ma ma so ro Ah, the confusion of beings who are fooled by appearance and do not recognize suchness. Alas, even though the all-pervading light of the sun in a cloudless sky is always there, to the eyeless the dark seems eternal. Even though suchness pervades everything, the great roar of the dragon, how can you possibly miss it? Confusion goes on and on. Beings who have not recognized the not mind are bound by mind's ideas. Even the accomplished are completely trapped, no different from a madman bound to his delusions. Powerless, purposeless, creating his own misery, grasping beliefs, believing thoughts, pursued by their own demons to complete exhaustion. Look, guys, the homeless guy on the streets who's talking to the telephone poles, who lines his hat in tinfoil so the CIA can't control him through his teeth. Yeah, that's us. Believing our thoughts. He thinks that is so. What do you think is so? You're going to have to embrace the ambiguity of not knowing. There is no one here among us who can tell what's real from what is not. Get used to it. It's not going away until the moment of enlightenment. And even that, I suspect, is a joke. Well, Maheshi once asked me, So what do you think? The second moment of enlightenment, is it the same as the first moment of enlightenment, or will it be different? Embrace the power of and. Without recognizing their own nature, they can only suffer in solitude. Some beings cling to the delusion of belief in intellectual explanations. Not recognizing their own true nature, they try to find themselves somewhere else. Some believe the images of forms to be real. Some try to destroy the root by attacking the branches. However they do it, they are seduced by belief in their knowledge and experience. This is why I tell you to put it all down. Don't try to figure it out. Stop thinking at it. It won't work. Try something else. Ki ho, ma sim ki rang lao ta, rang ge dini rang ge tok ma gyuna, yang pe sim kyang chak jiao chem pur char, ma rang gyo bu chem bu nang, mi lam da gi de dang du ke nam, swa pe du na rang jin me pe chu, re dang du pe sam ga sung nam sa, dag dang dang du pe mam sin je, ko dang ma nya lam de pa cha gong, de ne ma song, ba rang jin me pe chu, re dang du pe me sam si pa chu, pa dang rang dang ja su ti so yad. Sem ran tam che sem mơ ne wa yang chu so na dang ma chun dung bu ma me ke me sung ma sam deu jung ga se ma ra de sa me so keng me xiao ye gang a gang e la so ju sun sam no to pa ta kang ge rang ma to che la ta lai chim se se to ko kang che gi jang no rang jin che pa ji ne pa tok pe zu zam ba ni gang jing nam ke cham gen dong ra jang da dang bu me mang ba yong su ga le jin sam je che ne za ta za sing bo chum me sang we za ba ji yong su chong be sam keng me de ba se yam chong me to yin I'm trying to give you guys the lung while I do this, even though my pronunciation is probably far from perfect. Still, it will work. I'm there. And it gives you permission to read the book. Third, the teaching on how to practice in solitary places. Oh, the poor children, ignorant of the true nature of reality, while that inner stillness I so clearly perceive, I will always recognize the one who knows. We are talking about awareness here, the seer of all that is seen, Rigpa. That inner stillness, all-pervading space, is itself the three jewels, your object of refuge. Notice it. Unlosable. Kata, unfuck-upable, always present. Never lost, like the great roar of a dragon pervading all of samsara and nirvana. How can you possibly miss it? Look. It is the seer of all that is seen. Remaining alone, I see myself. Reflecting on aloneness, I see no aloneness. Beyond the seer and the seen is nothing to be said. The reality of mind, not mind, of multiplicity and singularity is indescribable. Cease trying to talk to yourselves about it. It's ineffective to do that. I get so many questions, but is it like this? No, it's not like that. Which I will answer to anything you put in words. No, it's not like that. Those are words. It is not like words. Words express concepts. It is not like concepts. Concepts are thoughts. It is not like thoughts. And yet, it is in no way separate from all the thoughts, concepts, and words that arise. Look for yourselves and see it. No one can give it to you. No one needs to give it to you because it's your own true nature. See the seer. If nothing is said, who can understand it? How do we pass this on to the next generation then? A lifetime of practice in natural mind. In solitary hermitages, I enter realization. But lion's milk cannot be kept in an ordinary pot. And when the lion roars in the jungle, all the animals flee in fear, except for the lion cubs, which come running joyfully. This is saying that not everyone's going to get it, going to notice it, going to be able to see it. Yes, I know in my lineage we give the highest teaching first and see if it sticks. And if it doesn't, we step back one, and then we step back one until we find the point where it sticks. And then we work our way back to the highest teaching from there. The analogy of lion's milk, it is said that if lion's milk is placed in an ordinary clay vessel, it will burst the vessel because it is so strong and powerful, being of the essence of a lion. When the original unborn great bliss is pointed out, the deluded, the heretics, they are terrified. Those who are seriously attached to their belief system, that's the meaning of heretic. You won't let go of what you believe in, even if it's Dharma. You clutch it tightly. You don't belong in Mahamudra. Let me show you some nice Tantra. You really do have to let go of all your is's and isn'ts. Everything you believe. You should have seen Rinpoche trying to knock the feminism out of me. All he really managed to do on that one is give me a sense of humor about it. Those who are ripe experience such joy that their hair stands on end. We're talking about the pointing out here. You want it? It's very, very simple. First, sit up straight and align your channels because that makes it easier. And why make it hard? Sure, you can see it standing on your head, but why bother when you can see it sitting in a chair? You can stand on your head for fun if you want. So align your channels and sit up straight. Focus your eyes now on a point about 2 meters in front of your nose, where there isn't anything at all. Ayanda, would you open the door for me, please? All the way open. Perfect. I just need the space to show. You want to put a pebble or something?
That'll keep it.
See that point 2 meters in front of you that you're looking at? Now let go of the point, but keep your eyes still. Let the muscles that govern your lenses of your eyeballs relax so that the central point of your vision and the peripheral points of your vision are equally clear and equally not clear. Now have a thought. Any thought. Pick a thought. Think it loudly. It's best to pick a thought you don't have a lot of emotional investment in. It makes it easier. Now, put your attention on the thought you're thinking. They will be constantly changing, of course. Pay a lot of attention to your thoughts. Watch your thoughts. Now, gently open the orifice of your attention so that you're not watching what you're thinking. Your attention is wide open on where those thoughts are happening. This is mind looking. There's no thing there. No things such as a middle or an edge or a here or a there. Those are thoughts you can think that arise in that not place and vanish in the same in that not place. infinite, vast, open, unmoving, unchanging. What changes is that which arises in it: thoughts, feelings, sensations, thoughts about the sensations called interpretations, with feelings about what you thought the sensation, what you interpreted the sensation as. And all of those come under the lump of a perception or an experience. And it all happens in that infinite open awareness. See that? Who sees that? That not that. That there that's not aware. Who sees? Who knows? It knows itself. For that infinite empty openness, vast beyond description, is lucid. It is vital, it is alive, it is able to think, feel, sense, experience, perceive. Those perceptions arise in mind and dissolve in mind, not other than mind. And this is mind looking. Awareness, Rigpa, is aware of itself, Rigpa. The double mirror. Look at your own mind with your own mind as your own mind. Scintillating with creativity, that innate awareness is. And it is that very creativity which gives birth to sensations, interpreted by thoughts, causing feelings continuously. Your reality, your own mind. This is what he's talking about here. Mind looking. Without the disassociation of my mind is over here looking at my mind over there. A look at is a disassociation. Look in, looking. Without the at. Mind looking. Awareness sees itself. Infinite open Rigpa. Awareness, unchanging, unborn, undying, but vital, lucid and alive with the potential of creativity, the sparkle of the clear light nature of the Dharmakaya. Look at it go, all of this. The shimmer of the clear light of the Dharmakaya. See that? Lion cubs. Secondly, there are 3 parts to the practice of the Mahamudra path. First, regarding the certainty of the view, there are also 3 parts. Oh, with undistracted mind, let the self look upon itself. Rigpa rigging itself. The seer sees itself, just this. Recognize your own true nature. Right here, right now. Why bother with later? Mind looking. Once you know what you really are, even distraction itself is simply a sign of its arising. Confusion and wisdom dance together. No separation. Recognize the ongoing self-liberation of great bliss. All your dreams of joy and sorrow, wake up and see it. Since your selfness has never been real, give up your belief in all your hopes and fears. The ongoing recognition is the sign of realization. Stop and take a minute for this phrase. The ongoing recognition, not the still recognition, not the stable recognition. Ongoing, on arising, vital. Dancing stillness. Movement and stillness are not a conflict, as neither are samsara and nirvana. Look right at this and see it for what it is. The essence of Dharmakaya includes both samsara and nirvana, since the very seer who sees his own nature is not. The belief systems of hopes and fears are exhausted. There needs to be the belief in someone who will be aided or damaged, for there to be hope for benefit and fear of damage. And so one rests from the effort of rejecting and grasping. All appearances and beliefs illusory like a mirage, and all semblances lack a concrete reality. Infinite mind, open sky without pretense of knower or known. Isness beyond knowing, free of extremes of center or edge. All universes and their events flowing like a river. All waters enter the ocean as one taste. See the mind and all its doing. The Dharma Dato of one taste. Recognize this. Questions so far?
One of our Spanish viewers asked, what is a Mahasiddha? Can you talk a bit more about that?
One who is far, far along the path, to the point where the normal rules of things like gravity, I'd say the normal rules of physics no longer apply. Of course, by that time, they're not there anyway. So there are no Mahasiddhas. just points in time and space, clumps flowing. Because by the time you get unattached to the laws of physics, you pretty much have to have already gotten unattached to the separation of subject and object. Next question.
Let's see. Yes. Are thoughts appearing in the same, quote, place, unquote, as external objects?
What's an external object? Look, I suppose you think this is an external object. What is it? I suppose you think it's a pen. Your eyeballs, your retina inside your eyeballs. Your eye is a composite. The retina inside the eye has rods and cones. The color, purple here, black here, white here. The color is registered by the cones. They need a lot of light to work. At night or in very, very dim light, they really don't work well, and it's mostly the rods that work. The rods get shape, but not color. So you're having a sensation of the eye organ, which is being put together as shape and color. What makes it a pen? Your experience with similar objects that were named pen. Actually, it's a switchblade, carefully, secretly disguised as a pen. Very useful. Believe one or the other. Embrace and. The penness of this, in the English language, or plume, nobody's translating to French. And I don't know what you call a pen in Russian. What's a pen in Spanish? Do you know, Nyandu?
As soon as you asked that, my brain went blank.
Okay, well, some of you thought this not pen. You thought a Russian word, when I said, what is it? And some of you thought a Spanish word. What other languages have we got going?
French, Hindi.
No, in the translations.
In the translations, Russian, Hebrew.
And some of you thought a Hebrew word. Those words, the naming of this clump of shape and color, was inside you, in your mind. It was not external. The penness of this is not external. You decide it was a pen. Have you never seen a rope and thought it was a snake? The snakeness of it is obvious in your mind when you later poke it and discover it to be a rope. But if you choose not to poke it, but to flee it and get in your car and drive away, you will always have it be a snake in your mind. So where's the external object we're talking about here? The snake, the rope? Do you see? There may be an external reality, a real reality, other than what you perceive in your mind. It is not what you perceive in your mind. That is conditioned by your experience, your language, your culture. However, there may be one out there, but nobody's ever seen it. Nobody ever will see it. All you can see is your cultural conditioning until the moment of enlightenment. Since nobody's ever seen it, nobody ever will see it, nobody does see it, what possible difference could it make if it were out there or not? Hence, I do not subscribe to the debate about whether or not there is a real external reality. It's a Madhyamika debate. So that was the best I could do with external objects for you. Never met one. Next question.
What's the difference between desire for eating, sex, etc., and a desire for enlightenment, for Buddhahood, and for a self that doesn't die?
On a relative level, one gets you into trouble and the other gets you out of trouble. On an absolute level, none at all, but don't tell. Next.
When I watch the pebble, should I really keep it that simple, only watching the stone doing nothing else? Or is there part of my attention directed also on myself, on my mind?
Nope, just watch the pebble. You're learning discipline, control. It is an exercise to a very specific purpose. Keep your mind on the pebble. Do not put part of your attention elsewhere. Next question.
Okay, hang on a moment. For, I guess, the gaze exercise, if you are in the dark, do you have to imagine that point 2 meters in front of your nose?
Yep. Next question. There's no point there, no point to see there even if you're in the light. That's the whole point of the point 2 meters in front of your nose, is that it's not there. Doesn't matter if it's dark or light or if your eyes are even closed, although do practice meditating with your eyes open. Next question.
The questions we have are a bit more general than related specifically to the text.
That's okay. We'll take a few and then I'll go back to giving the lung.
When we really recognize the nature of mind, do we attain the first bhumi?
Realizing the nature of mind the way it actually is the top of the 9th bhumi. When you truly realize that we're all in this together, you attain the first bhumi. The realization of bodhicitta. Not compassion. Oh, you poor thing, I need to help you. Pishtosh. The realization, the direct seeing, how interconnected, interpenetrating all life is. Once you've seen that, you can't unsee it, and that's the first bhumi. As I have been told. Next question.
What is, excuse me, what is samadhi and why is it important?
Samadhi is the ability to control your mind, just as the ability to control your horse is necessary to travel any distance by horse. So you need to have the strength of leg to stay on, You need to know how to signal more speed and less and different gaits with how you sit. Changing the angle of your seat will change the horse's gait if he's well trained. And you need to know if he's English reined or Western reined. I much prefer Western rein because it's a one hand. But in Western rein, you lay the rein on the side of the horse's neck and he turns away from it with one hand. So you're going like this. Whereas with Western, you're pulling the horse's head in the direction you want him to go. Two hands. I like one hand so the other hand can be, drinking from your flask or aiming a gun or, whatever it is you happen to be doing on horseback, scratching your nose. So that's a skill, riding a horse, how to steer the horse so it goes where you want it to go, stops when you want it to stop, and goes when you want it to go. Samadhi is that skill with mind, training it just like a horse. So it goes where you want it to go, stops when you want it to stop. Once you have samadhi, those mental problems, such as intrusive thoughts, will cease to be an issue. Actually, once you have Zogchen, they cease to be an issue too. Everybody has them. It's just some people are bothered by them. The skill of controlling the mind is often referred to as samadhi, shine. But this is just different levels of that skill. First thing you learn with a horse is how to make it go slowly and how to make it stop. Then you learn how to make it turn. Later, you learn how to adjust your seat to get different gaits. In the same way, there are levels of skill in samadhi. I'm going to do some of the lung again. Nipa gompa tambala, unladang po jin jimpo, sundu mi par tampani, sawa chube simni nam kedra, koso mi pa yila mi bese, tame shipa lang yung bala, se. Tame tama shiva rangjung mala some mikpadagi melade rangjindag pe semla komedo mo Mazung matang rangini dujog galte matog lola asungyume tong pa kanla sunji gomyime jitarnam kenam kai dam Mandamkai Migsume. I need the glasses. Yes, I have the broken glasses. It's too fuzzy in my eyes. It's really weird how this external object, the letters, gets either clearer or fuzzier, depending on the day. You wouldn't think a printed book would keep changing like that, now would you? This was just in reference to external objects. Detar namke namka meksume detar tongpa gomdume neme shepa chudangumatar na shog roji de chen guchime ne pasum dume pe dondang marajum pa chong tu zampani de tadu sumamba tam kedu ilatar me bagume nang de ne yong la sum jang yong tumang long me jung ne me singbar ma ko shiva bu chung ta burju ran tog ne de ne rang la to chudang rabni ta da ma toksi sum pa kor sum la nam pa romad gishi manom zuba seda ram tun yin pa petam pani ila meje para chembola sungyu dusum me pa megum se. When I'm in India, and I can always Tom Sawyer, one of the Tibetans, into doing the lung for me, but no such luck here. Gome dondang rame gombe jog neme lange debe jamboro chetar chula jungsun tar jeshin nangdu deshin nepete mingden jimpe yene raptuji jepayova Sampala sumge dangbo pagya chemboe yopala ngeme tanpane keho neme gungme nawargang lela pangdang pala napo sekjeo nang ne chukumag sungmatamza Ugyun nege mame mabeo jitar norbu dengome parta naljor soba dengome pete dunjenatok sakongang makyang naljor luni seglan medeo. Back here. And then secondly, pointing out the way to realization. Whoever seeks the infinite realm of the sky, to see totality without the limits of center or edge, like this, the mind complete with all its phenomena, find it. One does not find a speck, even a speck of essence. Whosoever won't find mind by imagining it. It is inconceivable. Stop trying to think about it. It is in the not seeing of it that one sees. The second of the three is the pointing out of meditation. Like a crow that rises up from a ship, wanders around in all directions, and finding no land, lands again in the same place it flew from. Even though desires and thoughts arise, they leave no trace. There is nowhere else for them to go. Do you see this analogy? The crow flies up from the ship when it's mid-ocean. The crow who has been traveling with the ship, eating the sailor's scraps. It seeks land in all directions, as far as it can fly, but finding nothing, returns to the same place. So you, seeking mind in all directions, finding nothing, return to the very seeker. For it is the very seeker of mind that is mind itself. The one who asks, the one who seeks, the one who dreams, the one who hopes, the one who fears, the one who stares out from behind your own eyes. There is no one. Singular. You, who you think you are. You have been influenced by everyone you have ever met, seen in a movie, read the writing of, interacted with, on any level. And each one of these books you've read, movies you've seen, games you've played, conversations you've had, mosquitoes you've swatted, has changed you slightly. There's no you that's changing. No thingy in there in the middle that the changes happen to. There is just a clump of changes, like a ball of yarn when you unravel the whole thing, all the yarn. There's no ball inside. That clump is the self, the ego. And there is nothing wrong with it, except that it has no existence or duration. This is not wrong with it. It's simply a misperception. We think it's real and ongoing. And yet it's continuously changing, and there is no thing in it, single center, soul, or whatever, that might not change. The whole thing, the entire shape, is changed by each influence. And so gradually, you grow. Do you see that? Not finding even a speck of essence. Whomsoever seeks won't find mind by imagining it. It is in the not seeing of it that one sees. The second part is the pointing out. The second of the three is the pointing out of meditation. Like a crow that rises up from a ship, wanders around in all directions, and lands again in the same place. Even though desires and thoughts arise, they leave no trace. The mind returns again to its natural resting place. When you truly see who you are, no matter how intense your thoughts, feelings, or perceptions, none of them, by their nature, have duration, and there is nowhere else for you to be but this. And that's true even if you don't know it. Without trying, without hope or fear, when conditions are ripe, movement stills. This has been divided into the three parts, sort of following Garib Dorji's division. Remember, Garib Dorji was North Indian Siddha too. There was a time, it was a great heyday of Tantra and Zogchen in North India. What made it possible was a large middle class. The Dharma needs that to be its most creative self, most open-minded, open-hearted. A large middle class means a large portion of the population with enough leisure to have hobbies. When you are too poor, all your energy goes into finding food and shelter. Remember those times in your life when it's been like that? There's no space for a hobby, a practice, anything. When you are too rich, all of your energy goes into maintaining that wealth and working with it and keeping others from taking it from you, and worrying whether people like you or not on account of your wealth or on account of who you are, and it really gets uncomfortable. But when you're in the middle, you have enough after putting in 5 or 6 hours a day, because you get a lunch break, you get coffee breaks, and you sometimes goof off and look at your phone. You make enough to actually have food and shelter, which is really what you need. And the rest is gravy. You can either not work more, have less stuff and have more time, or you can work more and harder and have more stuff and less time, but you have the choice. That's middle class. Now, admittedly, most people in the middle class do choose to work more and have more. But you don't have to. You could choose to work less and practice more if you wanted. And enough people make that choice in a large area of middle class for the Dharma to flourish among householders. And some people make the choice to go on up the mountain without it causing their parents to starve. And so there's a few that drop out and put their energy into the Dharma wholly. And there's enough of the rest of us to feed them so that Dharma flourishes. This is what it takes to flourish a large middle class. I do hope we don't completely lose the middle class here in America. there is much less of it than there used to be. The separation between the rich and the poor is getting very hot, very large. This is unfortunate for Dharma. Unfortunate for the right amount of leisure to pursue your interests, which for some people will be Dharma. I'm going to take a few questions.
Okay. One moment, I almost had it in front of me here. One of our Hebrew viewers asks, is samadhi without an object similar to treksha in Zogchen? What are the different stages within Mahamudra?
I'm not going to go too deeply into this now, although I will briefly, if you want it in depth, go to my online Mahamudra teaching on YouTube. Google Lama Lina Mahamudra YouTube. It'll come up. Basically, you start with shine, with an object. And then you do shine without an object. Once that's easy, you begin rushen. Rushen is separating. You separate the moving from the stillness. Not as in you pull them apart, but as in you learn to recognize what's which, what moves and what's still. You make sure you can tell the difference. This is important. Do not end that process too soon. From there, the next step is something called Trultra Yoga. Trultra, dancing stillness yoga. Trultra Naljor, the yoga of dancing stillness. Once you have accomplished that, effectively, you enter into Laktong, direct seeing. That is somewhat equivalent to Treksha. From Laktong, you allow that to mature. Into one taste, which matures into non-meditation. And there are some processes and exercises to help the maturing process. Next question.
Earlier, you talked about the upcoming retreat for speech rushin.
Mm-hmm.
When do you recommend someone practice this, and for a person in what kind of situation?
A person who has been practicing Mahamudra Laktong for a while, 6 months, a year, 2 years at least, something like that, and who can take the time off to do it well. It's a week's retreat. Next question.
I understand stopping the thoughts while watching them, but how about deep anxiety?
Wait a minute, why do you want to stop the thoughts while watching them? That's not what you're supposed to do with them in any of the instructions I've given. So where are we and what are we talking about? Please fix your question and I'll do another question while you're retyping. You may have just used words. It might be a wordly miscommunication, in which case choose some different ones. Or it might be a misunderstanding, in which case I should clear it up with you. You don't want the thoughts to go away. You don't want them to stay. You want to release them into their natural state. You don't want to change them in any way or to stop them, with the exception of shine. If you are talking about shine, that's different. So I'm a little confused here. In shine, you watch the thoughts and you stop them until you find the stillness. And you learn to keep your mind reflecting the stillness, being still in stillness, until you develop that skill so you can do it when you wanna. Emotions ride thoughts. When one feels anxiety, there are thoughts about what one could possibly be anxious for. When there are no thoughts, there may be a physical sensation going on in your gut, or even a shakiness going on in your body. But these aren't anxiety because anxiety is a name of a sensation, and the name is a thought. So get back to me on exactly what we're talking about in which context. Next question.
One of our Russian viewers is asking, is it possible to see during meditation in all directions at the same time?
What meditation? Again, that question will depend. During dream yoga, yes, which is a form of meditation. Both in preparation for it and going in and out of it, yes, directionality is irrelevant. In shine, no. Nor would you want to. So I'm not sure what practice you're referring to and find it difficult to give a clear answer. Next question.
How would you suggest dealing with intrusive thoughts with ill will as their content? It's arising as an obstacle while trying to develop metta.
Okay, are you practicing Sutrayana? Again, how I would advise is going to depend on whether your main practice is of the sutras, which is what it sounds like from saying you're trying to develop metta. Because there's a different answer to how to deal with that in sutra, in tantra, and in Zogchen, so I need to know the level of your practice to answer it properly. Now, I think I'll answer that briefly in all three. In sutra, when the thought of wishing to harm an enemy arises, you should immediately begin thinking about and contemplating patience and loving kindness. You antidote it with its opposite feeling. This is the sutra method. In tantra, when an intrusive thought of wishing to harm your enemy arises, you override it with the sound, the loud sound of the mantra of your yidam, and the vision of your yidam, and the feel of your yidam's body and the adornments on you. You become your yidam and override it in that way. In Zogchen, you recognize thoughts for what they are and don't pay them no never mind. So they can't bother you. There, next question. Anybody coming back with previous?
Haven't seen it yet. It'll be coming, I suppose, in the next minute or so.
Okay.
So in the meantime, there's a question from a Spanish viewer. My daughter, who is present, likes to do this practice. She is 10 years old. Is there any are there any special instructions for someone her age?
Not different from any others. If she likes the practice of Mahamudra, I will be meeting with the Mahamudra group. And tomorrow, at this time, as a sort of discussion and meeting, and she's most welcome. There is no age limit. And that way, if she wants to talk about her practice with us, me and the rest of the group, it's a fixed group that meets every month or so. She's welcome to do so. And if she wants to sit in the background and just listen, she's welcome to do so. I wouldn't change anything by age, but I do change things by individual. Not by how old they are. Although I might choose my analogies different for a 10-year-old and a 16-year-old, because they will have different interests. So tell her she's welcome to that if she wants to go deeper. And no, this is the same instructions regardless of how old you are. Next question.
Let me just double check something. I work at Walmart full time, and I do my sadhanas during shift while working, and dissolute / set during rest periods. There is no difference between the infinite dancing and the stillness. Advice?
Keep going, you're doing it right. Good work. Keep at it. Next question.
Okay. There we go. When looking at the pebble, the thoughts, sensations, etc. arise, and by my attention also includes those things while looking at the pebble. Is this the practice?
No. When these things arise, they will distract you and they will try to catch your attention. Leave them peripheral. Take your hand up here and bring it to the very edge of your peripheral vision while you're looking straight forward. I need to be outside of the camera range so I can see. Yeah, okay. So you've got it. You're looking straight forward and your hand is at the edge of your peripheral vision. Now focus on my face while wiggling your fingers. Keep your attention on my face. See that? If you keep your attention on my face, even though there is a subtle noticement of fingers wiggling over there, you're not paying any real attention to it. Your attention is on the central focus. So in this case, it's on the pebble. And when the thoughts and feelings arise and try to catch your attention, return your attention to the pebble again and again. What you're trying to develop here is control of attention. The tool, the aim, the orifice of attention. You want to be able to put it where you want it. By choice. Hence the pebble. Next question.
How do I deal with confusion?
Once again, I need to know if you're practicing Sutra Tantra or Mahamudra, and if so, where in Mahamudra you are. In general, in Sutrayana, you deal with confusion by learning and reading sutras and contemplating and developing understanding. In Tantra, you deal with confusion by simply relying on your yidam, which is unconfused, and figuring your yidam will take care of you and it and everything. You allow your confusion to transform like the peacock creates its beautiful colors by eating poisonous plants, so the poison of confusion is transformed into wisdom through the activity of the dance of the mandala of the yidam. Tantra. Mahamudra. Once you have reached the level, if you're working on shine, both with and without an object, confusion should be left aside. Keep your attention on the pebble, or later on, tawa. And if you experience confusion about this, recognize that it is thoughts, and your attention is on mind, and the thoughts can arise and dissolve all they want. Once you are practicing Trultra Naljur or Lakdong, by this point, you should be able to see that confusion is the life force of awareness and therefore is no different than wisdom. Therefore, you should not need to shove away confusion or grasp wisdom. So depending on your level and your practice, the answer changes. This is why when you get teachings from lamas, usually they're given in a certain level. Especially lamas who are accustomed to teaching thousands of people. I like to keep things a little smaller and more personal. That's just me, personality. So there are different practices appropriate for different people at different levels, and that's always changing. Not what practice goes to what level, but what person is at what level. You're up, you're down, you're sideways, we all do. So the whole thing is to be able to do the appropriate practice for who you are today. Which is why I teach you a variety, because you could be a really good Zogchen practitioner who's having a really bad day, and the only thing that's going to keep you from having a road rage incident today, the way things are going, is to meditate on patience. Sometimes the moon is in Kaka, what Chandul Tuku used to call a piss in your shoe day. You have these days where you get out of bed and you go out to take a leak, and halfway through your leak you find you're pissing in your shoe. We leave our shoes out there. He says when that happens, you just have to recognize that this is a piss in your shoe day and go back to bed. And that was a very high lineage holding lama, very famous, who apparently was also having piss in your shoe days. It's not just me who has them. It's not just you. Accept them, laugh at them, and go back to bed. Or read a book. Next question.
Why is Mahamudra also taught to Zogchen practitioners? Are they separate methods of practice? Or does it make it redundant as following two major paths, as in Theravada and Mahayana?
Zogchen practitioners, in my experience, why I teach them both, although I usually insist that you choose one until you run into the problem. The problem in Zogchen is that nobody teaches you Rushen until much later on. And then, yes, there are methods and Rushens much later on. The speech Rushen is part of this. Inner and outer body are part of this. These are Rushens. No, and they're done differently from in Mahamudra. Sometimes they don't work. Or they only kind of sort of work. But they don't make the full separation. The full understanding of what moves and what doesn't. So you get a lot of Zogchen practitioners around the 4th or 5th year of practice who keep trying to stabilize the perception of Tawa. Facepalm. Perceptions are moving. They try to stabilize the experience of Tawa. Experiences are moving. You are not having the same experience right now as you were 15 minutes ago. It's different. It moved. And then they start bashing their head against that brick wall. That's the Zogchen oops that happens later on. So a little bit of Mahamudra stuck in there is really helpful. Going back to the separating point of Shine without an object. Now with Mahamudra, there's a couple of places where people actually get caught in Shine without an object and aren't able to quite step over the hump of Trultra Naljur. At which point, a bit of Zogchen in there sometimes helps make that transference, that shift. So that's why and where the two come together, somewhere around Lacton. For Mahamudra practitioners, and somewhere around advanced third word Zogchen when it doesn't work. Advanced Zogchen that doesn't quite, or you get it. You see, it is possible to stabilize an experience for a while. It's not stable, you're just hanging on to it for a while, but you can get that to last 6 months to a year. And then you think you've stabilized it, so you stop practicing. Ow. You're going to do yourself a mischief there. When you fall off, it's going to hurt like fuck. How do I know this? The way I know where most of the pitfalls in the path are. I stepped in them. I'm a klutz and a lousy practitioner. Found every hole available in the path and fell in it, I suspect. That's why it's taken until I'm wicked old to get anything even reasonable as far as understanding Dharma. Oh well, I had a really good teacher, which is the only reason that I have benefited by the Dharma. It's not from my side, it's from his. I do not wish to start conduct today. So we're on page 66 of the book, guys. Translators, those of you who have a copy. I need to catch up on lungs, but my eyesight was just giving me a trouble today, so when we come back next time, I'll catch you up with some lungs. Yeah, I know, I'm not seeing well enough to figure this out right now. So I'll take a couple more questions and then I think we might be done.
Okay. Wait a minute, I just had it. If there is nothing external, why do traditions stress the need for an external teacher?
Because no one in their right mind is going to step off that cliff without somebody pushing them. You need to redream the dream that you dreamed before, even if you had it. It is a matter of context, interaction, interpenetrating, interrelationship. You see, there's no such thing as internal either. Just because I said nothing's external didn't mean it was all internal. Neither external nor internal. Clumps, interacting, interpenetrating, interchanging. Not interchangeable, but interchanging, exchanging. You cannot be alive. Not true. There is a creature that lives in outer space. They lay eggs and abandon them. They're born from eggs. They're a very strange creature, but they never, except for once, in mating and death, meet another creature. They are single and solitary all their lives. So I can't say no one, but no one around here. Those don't exist even on a planet. They exist on a surface, but it's not a planetary surface, and it's several dimensions over. And don't worry about them. They're far away. I just happened to read about them in a text and go check them out. Around here, there is no one who cannot participate in the dance. On this planetary surface, we will dance with each other, interpenetrating, interchanging, exchanging ideas, information, formations, karmic bits, karmic debts, constantly interwoven. And the Dharma and enlightenment is part of that. There is no inside or outside. It's all interwoven. This is what I mean when I tell y'all we're all in this together. Next question.
Okay. Interesting. Is there a Mahasiddhas story from the book Buddhist Masters of Enchantment that would go well with the teachings today?
Yes, I'll look it up for you for next time. I didn't bring that book out. Nyando, are you capable of remembering that?
Yes, I'll make it up. One other.
It's Saraha. You can look him up too, but I will bring it for next time.
Another question. I want to practice and learn Tantra. Is there a course or teaching online? Should I go to India or Nepal or to Sultana specifically?
There is a course of teaching online. I would recommend Garchen Rinpoche as a wonderful teacher of Tantra. If you feel you need a bit more hand-holding, you can also, not instead of, join my Tantra group. But he has a very much online presence. He teaches online, and he's an incredible Lopan, tantric master, and I highly recommend. Next question.
I did some green Tara practice, recited her mantra, and found out that in bad situations the mantra worked for me almost instantly. Can I use green Tara as my yidam?
Yes, you can. There are some vows that go with green Tara. To the best of your ability, not to damage the environment. Doesn't mean you can't go somewhere in a gas car. It does mean you should recycle and pick up litter. To the best of your ability, preserve nature. Green Tara is an aspect of the ancient fertility goddess Mother Nature of the Dravidians in India. Just as all sentient beings are interconnected, so are all the archetypes of all the religion dancing as symbols in the universal unconscious. So be kind to the earth, your mother, if you're going to practice green Tara. Next question.
Is Rigpa experienced a little differently in each spontaneous experience?
Yes and no. This is a place where you need to embrace the power of and. It is experienced exactly the same and a little differently. For the moving, remember Trultra Naljor, dance of moving stillness. The moving has changed and the stillness has not, and they're the same thing. That's like Lama Yeshe's question about the first and second moment of enlightenment. One more.
Okay. One more. Let's see. Because we, like I said, we have questions, but they're not on the specifics of the text. Is there a single mind stream or multiple mind streams?
Yes. Depends. At any point in a single point in time, there are multiple mind streams. But in the fourth time, beyond time and space, it is singular. Kuntu Zangpo, Kuntu Zangmo, as one, united. So I can only say yes. At any given moment, there are multiple. But in all the moments together and beyond moments, since the space-time continuum is a concept which arises in mind and dissolves in mind, as in you made it up. Like that. Remember I told you to embrace the power of and put down your either ors. In the first teaching on Siraha last month or so, there was a quote in that part. All ises and isn'ts aren't. Take that to heart, okay? Next.
How does one break the karma of losing or misplacing stuff, or having the little elves grab your stuff?
First, you check this out physically and see if it is a side effect of ADD. If it is, you consider medication. Always treat physical problems physically. Now, if this is not a matter of ADD, you can control it by having very specific places that important things go in and making a rule to yourself that they do not leave your hand until they go into that specific place. A place near the door, a hook where car keys live, or masks, or another drawer in which you keep important papers or your passport, a place in the kitchen in which all the stirring spoons go. OCD is an antidote to the forgetfulness of ADD. So what you want to do is balance those two crazinesses together. At least that works for me. How did I learn this? Well, I was single-handing my way in a little outrigger sailboat down the coast of the Indian Ocean. And I wasn't really good about putting things in their place. And, you know, in that kind of a little open boat, things fall overboard if they're not battened down. After a week or two of this, I found myself one day trying to eat soup out of my hat with my fingers. Bowl went overboard, spoons went overboard. It's really hard to eat soup out of your hat with your fingers. So I will strongly, at that point, realize that I needed to change this to fix the problem of not knowing where I put things and then having them disappear. In this instance, it was very fast and strong because I was in a boat on the ocean. Whereas in daily life, the attrition of objects had been a little bit slower, but they were still happening. And I developed a little bit of OCD about things being in their place, and that worked. I now rarely lose things, even though I know that I may walk into a room 6 times trying to remember what I'm looking for. And if I do set something down, I will never, ever know where I put it. So try OCD. See if it helps. And get yourself checked out for ADD physically. It's a chemical thing, and it can be treated chemically. I'll take one more. We've still got just a couple of minutes.
Okay. Is resting in mind's nature that which doesn't come or go, no matter the arising, adequate, meaning doing the resting, I guess? Or does one still need a nundro or something for extra measure?
Probably not. However, you do need to take the next step, which is Trultra Naljor. You are at sufficient in separating that you may begin Trultra Naljor now. Yoga of dancing stillness. Now that you are capable of resting in stillness at will. What was the last few lines of that question?
Or does one still need a nundro or something for...
Only if you get stuck and can't accomplish Trultra Naljor. Would you possibly need a nundro or some other form of adjunctive practice? there's no rule about Nundro. Nundro is a tool. When you get stuck on a practice and you can't get it to work, Naropa, before he met Tilopa, was doing Vajrayogini as his Yidam. And he did the Yidam retreat once and nothing happened. He got no results. And he did it again and he got no results. And he did it again and he got no results. So he finally got so pissed off he threw his mala in the loo, Indian toilet, and turned around and stalked away. At which point he heard behind him a woman's voice. He's in a monastery. There should be no women. Excuse me, Naro, excuse me. And he turned around, and there is his Yidam, Dorji Naljorma, standing there holding a shit-covered mala. I think you dropped this, she said. And he was that was the result. He wanted to see his Yidam, to actually have the vision, the experience. And he said to her, where were you when I did all the retreats? Why now? She said, I've been there all along trying to get you to notice me. And he said, what am I doing wrong? What do I have to do to accomplish my goals of enlightenment? And she said, you've done enough Tantra. There's this guy eating fish down by the river, eating fish heads. He is the one who could show you how to bring your mind all the way through to enlightenment. And that's how he met Tilopa. His Yidam sent him, Vajrayogini. And then Tilopa spent a number of years trying to knock him out of being a prig, which was the problem. And I think that's good for today.
There is one more question I would like to throw
Then
in
let's
there.
do it. Throw it in.
Very quick. The question is, there are a lot of words that I don't understand in Zogchen. Do you have any recommendations for books that would explain the vocabulary?
There is a really good glossary in a book called Golden Letters. It purports to be a translation of the 3 words of Garib Dorji. I find it overdone. It is not my favorite translation, but some people really, really like it. Remember, I'm a cave yogi, not a scholar, and that one is by John Reynolds, I think, who is also a yogi, but also more of a scholar than me, as a bit more of a literal way of seeing things than I do. Yeah, we were kids together, we were both hysterically funny as kids. So the glossary in there has a whole bunch of nicely explained Dharma terms, and I would recommend it for that purpose. Try that. I'm sure it's on Amazon as a Kindle.
I'll put the link in the chat.
Yeah, and it's the glossary there that I'm highly recommending to get Zogchen terms.
Mm-hmm. Just take that.
And we're putting the URL to get it from Amazon in chat.
Yes.
He's a wonderful scholar. Is it David Reynolds?
It is John Reynolds.
John Reynolds, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
See, it's been like 50 years since I've seen him. I guess he made an impression, though. He had way cool, long, matted hair at the time.
More questions? Or?
Yeah, give me one, and then I'm going to call it end.
Okay. Is there a method in Tantra to travel to Dewachin or the Pure Land of one's Yidam to receive teachings and wangs? And also as to be prepared for at the time of death?
Dream yoga would be your method that precisely does exactly those things. Suggest you learn it, if that's what you would like to learn. I've got 4 teachings up on the website, 3 by me, 1 by Geshe Tenzin Wangyal Rinpoche. And you can start there, and then that's got your pretty much basics to get you started. There's an ongoing group, and you can find a great deal on the subject here and there. Some of it is grossly inaccurate. So it's good if there is, you have a basis before you start wandering around. You can trust what Tenzin Wangyal teaches you, and you can trust what Alan Watts teaches you on that subject. And the rest, some of it you can trust and some of it you can't, and you better be able to tell the difference because there's some weird shit out there. And I think we're complete, unless there's something pressing, Nyando.
Let me just do one more.
Do a quick scan and see if anything is pressing.
Okay.
So I don't want to leave anyone disappointed with a question that's super important to them, even if we didn't get that far today. We got some good stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And remember, I only use these texts to teach off of. I'm not a scholar where I'm doing the Campo trip with them, where I explain every word by word. There are those out there, you can find them.
What to do when one is young, serious about practice, but at the same time struggling with sexual desire and hormones connected to the age, but not wanting to feed the actual desire?
Go ahead and get laid, but please use effective contraceptives, preferably 2 kinds. When you are young, if you don't get laid, the desire will distract you and make it very difficult for you to practice. How do I know this? I wanted to be a nun once. I asked my teacher at that time, Lama Tupten Yeshi, to ordain me, and he laughed. And he said, no, you live as can I get some bubbly?
Yes.
You go ahead and live as a nun for 1 year, taking the vows every morning before dawn and renewing them every morning as the sun, just before the sun crosses the horizon, which is a traditional thing. And if you still want to be a nun, you can. That year, I absolutely got no practice done effectively. In the mornings, when I first got up, all I could think about was beautiful clothing and jewelry. In the middle of the day, all I could think about was sex. In the afternoon, and nuns take a vow not to eat afternoon in this form, all I could think about was food. Finally, when I stopped thinking about food, it was by thinking about sex again. Oi! My practice was way down from this. And finally, a year later, Lama Yeshe meets me and says, so you still want to be a nun? And I'm like, no. And he cracked up laughing and said, see, I told you so. It is really not appropriate for everyone at every time in life. However, do not have a baby. If you are male, you need to use condoms and get them tied. It's reversible. And I believe there is now coming out a hormonal one for males. But anyway, if you are male, you do not expect the female to deal with it. You deal with it, and no condom stuck in your back pocket. You get a little pouch to go on your belt that keeps them nicely. I'm serious. 2 kinds of contraception, guys. Your responsibility. It is going to fuck you up in your Dharma practice if you have a baby. Guys, the karma of you having a baby and abandoning it is going to make a mess. You're not going to get anywhere. And the karma of you not abandoning it and raising it or supporting it very well is also going to make a mess. Don't do that. Women the same. If you want to practice Dharma, don't have a baby now. If you want to have a baby and practice Dharma, that's got to be a very conscious choice, and you need to know with open eyes what that is going to do to your path. So refraining, sex is not bad. Jesus Christ, guys, that's not Buddhist, that's Christian. Stuff leaked in. Pre-contraception availability, sex was problematic. We have contraceptives. Sex is not bad or evil. And it will stop bothering you once you get laid. Just don't commit sexual transgressions. Get laid with a consenting adult who is not in a vow not to do so. That means no monks and no married folk unless it's an open marriage, absolutely and officially. Seriously. You'll practice much better that way. Any other questions?
None that are urgent.
Okay. Ge wandi nyor dudag che sala go parshu. Like I've been saying for the past couple of hours, we're all in this together. May all beings experience the ultimate union of path and fruition. We are complete. See you all next. Oh, wait a minute, Nyando.
Yeah.
See you all next time. Is it Mahamudra tomorrow?
Yes.
Mahamudra group tomorrow. If you're in that, I'll see you then. You get to ask more questions. I hope you saved some from today for then. And if you want to sponsor a yogi in a cave, I talked about that in the beginning, just send me an email. And we've got a bunch of interesting stuff coming up. Go to the website and find out what it is, because I can't remember anymore. And please, your translators are here as volunteers. They're taking time out of other things they could be doing to assist you. Please do remember to make them an offering, even if it's a quarter. It's still an acknowledgement of your gratitude. Starving students who don't have a quarter, please send them a letter of thanks, at least. We do value our translators more than you realize. And now I believe I've said everything.